Have you ever felt your entire day ruined by someone's words? Maybe a coworker spoke harshly. Maybe a friend mocked you. Or maybe someone ignored your message and it bothered you more than it should. It happens quickly. One small moment and suddenly your mood collapses. But here is a powerful truth many people never realize. No one can truly make you angry unless you allow them to. This story is about a man who learned that lesson the hard way. Years ago, in a quiet village surrounded by hills and farmland, lived a man named David. David was known throughout the village for one thing: his temper. If his breakfast wasn't prepared the way he liked, he shouted. If animals wandered near his field, he became furious. Even when children laughed while playing outside, he would yell for them to be quiet. People tried to avoid him because his anger appeared suddenly and loudly. David believed the problem was everyone else. In his mind, people were careless, disrespectful, and annoying. His wife, Anna, often tried to calm him. One evening, she spoke gently. "David, why do you let small things upset you so much?" David responded sharply. "If people behaved properly, I wouldn't get angry." What he didn't realize was something very important. Every time he reacted with anger, he was giving other people control over his peace. One summer day, a quiet traveler arrived in the village. He wore simple clothes and carried almost nothing with him. The villagers soon learned he was a wandering monk known for his wisdom. He spent most of his time sitting beneath a large tree near the well, quietly observing the world. People said he spoke very little, but when he did, his words stayed in the heart. One afternoon, Anna suggested something to David. "Why don't you speak with the monk?" she asked. David laughed. "What could a monk possibly teach me?" But the next day, something happened that made him think differently. While working in his field, a neighbor's young son accidentally broke one of David's farming tools. David exploded with anger. He shouted so loudly that birds flew from nearby trees. The frightened boy ran away in tears. Later that evening, David sat alone outside his house. His anger had faded, but something else remained, a heavy feeling in his chest. He whispered to himself, "Why do I always feel worse after I lose my temper?" That night, he couldn't sleep. Before sunrise, he walked toward the tree where the monk usually sat. The monk was already there, calmly listening to the sounds of morning birds. David stood there awkwardly for a moment before speaking. "I am tired," he said. "People make me angry all the time and I can't control it." The monk opened his eyes and smiled gently. "Sit down," he said. After a moment, he asked David a simple question. "When someone angers you, how long does that feeling stay with you?" David thought for a moment. "Sometimes an hour," he said. "Sometimes the whole day." "And after the anger fades?" the monk asked. "How do you feel then?" David sighed. "Drained, tired, and a little ashamed." The monk nodded. "Anger is like fire," he said softly. "It burns the one who holds it." He picked up a small bowl of water nearby. "Look at this water," he said. "When it is still, you can clearly see your reflection." Then he gently shook the bowl. The water became cloudy and restless. "When the water is disturbed, you cannot see clearly anymore," he explained. "That is exactly what anger does to the mind." David asked quietly, "So what should I do when someone insults me?" The monk smiled. "Learn to respond, not react. There is a difference." The monk continued with a simple example. "If someone throws dirt toward you," he said, "you have two choices. You can try to catch it, or you can simply step aside. The choice is always yours." The next day, the monk gave David a small exercise. "Bring me a pot of water," he said. David did. "Now place it over the fire." Soon, the water began to boil. The monk asked, "Can you touch the water now?" David shook his head. "It would burn me." "That," the monk said calmly, "is anger. When your emotions boil, peace becomes impossible to touch." Then the monk dropped a handful of sand into the pot. The water became cloudy. "This is what happens when the mind reacts to every insult and irritation," he explained. After pouring the water into a bowl, they waited quietly.
Slowly, the sand settled to the bottom. The water became clear again. "This is what happens when you stop reacting," the monk said. "The mind settles, clarity returns." David sat silently. For the first time in many years, he understood something important. His anger was not caused by other people. It was created by his own reactions.
Over the next few days, David began practicing what the monk had taught him. Whenever something irritated him, he paused. He took a breath and remembered the monk's words. Step aside. It wasn't easy. Old habits don't disappear quickly. One afternoon, a merchant tried to overcharge him in the marketplace. David felt the familiar heat of anger rising, but instead of shouting, he calmly said, "I'll buy from someone else." Then he walked away. For the first time, he felt something new: peace. Later, another test came. A group of young men in the village began teasing him. "Look at him," they laughed. "The angry man thinks he's peaceful now." David felt his fists tighten, but then he remembered something else the monk had said. When you react, you give away your power. So David simply smiled. "You're right," he said. "I used to be very angry, but I'm learning something better now." The young men were confused. One of them asked, "How can you stay calm when we insult you?" David replied quietly, "When someone offers you poison, you don't have to drink it." They had no answer. Weeks passed. David changed. He spoke more calmly. He listened more. Even when problems appeared, he no longer exploded with anger. One morning, he returned to the tree where the monk had once sat. "Now I understand," David said. "People never controlled my anger. My reactions did." The monk smiled. "Life will continue to test you," he said, "but every time you remain calm, you become stronger." Years later, David became known as one of the wisest and calmest men in the village. People often asked him the secret to his peace. He always answered the same way. You cannot control what people say, but you can control how you respond. So the next time someone tries to disturb your peace, remember this simple truth. You don't have to catch the dirt that others throw. If this story gave you something to think about, consider supporting Echoes of the Past for more stories about wisdom, strength, and inner peace. Because sometimes a simple story can quietly change the way we live.